A fiery clash on Jimmy Kimmel Live last night left jaws on the floor as Repler's Jasmine Crockett and Jimmy Kimmel traded vicious barbs, spiraling into a viral showdown that set the internet ablaze with shock and outrage. The lights dimmed low. In the packed Hollywood studio, the audience buzzing with anticipation as Jimmy Kimmel leaned back in his chair, his signature smirk flashing across his face. Last night's episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live promised a bold guest. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the sharp-tongued Democrat from Texas, known for her unapologetic style and viral moments on Capitol Hill. The crowd, a mix of loyal fans and curious onlookers, had no idea they were about to witness a confrontation that would dominate headlines and flood social media feeds by morning. Kimmel kicked things off with his usual charm, tossing out a light jab about Crockett's recent viral takedown of a colleague in Congress. "Jasmine, you've been setting the House floor on fire with those clapbacks. Do you ever get tired of schooling people?" The audience chuckled, expecting Crockett to lean into the flattery. But her expression tightened, her eyes narrowing as she adjusted in her seat. "Jimmy, I don't school people, I speak truth. Maybe you should try it sometime instead of hiding behind jokes." The crowd gasped, a ripple of unease cutting through the laughter. Kimmel's smile faltered, but he recovered quickly, leaning forward. "Oh, we're getting spicy already. Truth, huh? Let's talk about that." The tension simmered as Kimmel pivoted to politics, zeroing in on Crockett's outspoken criticism of certain political figures. "You've called out some big names lately, Jasmine. You've got no fear. But don't you think sometimes you're just fanning the flames for attention?" His tone was playful, but the accusation landed like a jab. Crockett's jaw clenched, her voice steady but laced with venom. "Attention? Jimmy, I'm fighting for people who don't have a voice. You sit here cracking jokes while folks are losing rights. Maybe you're the one chasing clout." The audience erupted, some cheering, others murmuring in shock. Kimmel's eyes flashed with irritation, his fingers tapping the desk. "Okay, let's not pretend you don't love the spotlight. Those viral moments aren't exactly accidents, are they?" Crockett didn't back down, her voice rising. "You want to talk spotlight? You're the one turning serious issues into punchlines. I'm out here doing the work, not playing for laughs." The crowd was split, half applauding her boldness, half stunned by the direct attack. Kimmel, clearly rattled, tried to steer the conversation back. "All right, let's talk policy then. You've been vocal about government inefficiency. Care to explain without the sound bites?" It was a challenge, and Crockett knew it. She leaned forward, her words sharp. "I'll explain it better than you can spin it, Jimmy. The system's broken because people like you normalize incompetence with your cute little monologues." The air in the studio felt electric, every word a spark threatening to ignite. Kimmel, usually the master of deflection, seemed caught off guard by Crockett's relentless edge. He shot back, "Wow, I didn't realize I was the problem in Washington. Maybe you should take a break from Congress and try stand-up." The sarcasm dripped, but Crockett wasn't laughing. "Maybe you should stick to comedy and leave the real talk to me," she fired back, her voice cutting through the room. The audience was on edge, sensing the interview was veering into uncharted territory. As the segment neared its close, Kimmel tried to lighten the mood, tossing out a question about Crockett's plans for the upcoming election cycle. But she wasn't having it. "Jimmy, you don't get to pivot like that. You challenged me, so let's keep it real. Why don't you ask about the policies you dodge in your cozy little bubble?" The crowd roared, some in support, others in disbelief. Kimmel's face reddened, his smile now a thin line. "You want real? Fine, let's get real. But don't cry foul when it gets too hot for you." The bell signaling the end of the segment rang, but the hostility lingered, promising an explosive continuation. What would happen when these two returned to the stage? The studio lights blazed back on, the audience still buzzing from the earlier clash, their murmurs a low hum of anticipation. Jimmy Kimmel, now standing by the stage's edge, flashed a tight smile, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Across from him, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat ramrod straight, her expression a steel mask of defiance. The bell had paused their war of words, but the air crackled with unfinished business. Last night's Jimmy Kimmel Live was no longer a talk show. It was a battlefield, and neither was ready to wave a white flag. Kimmel, ever the showman, tried to reclaim control as he sauntered back to his desk. "Welcome back, folks. We're here with Representative Jasmine Crockett, who's clearly not here to play nice." The crowd laughed nervously, sensing the jab was more than just banter. Crockett's lips twitched, but she didn't smile. "Play nice? Jimmy, I'm not here to play at all. I'm here for the truth, something you seem allergic to." The audience gasped, a few cheers punctuating the tension. Kimmel's fingers drummed on the desk, his voice sharp. "Truth? That's rich coming from someone who's built a brand. On viral zingers. Let's talk about substance, not just your Twitter highlight reel." Crockett leaned forward, her voice low but cutting. "You want substance? Let's talk about how you cherry-pick issues for laughs, while ignoring the people hurting under policies you don't bother to understand." The crowd was split, some clapping, others shifting uncomfortably. Kimmel's eyes narrowed, his tone icy. "Oh, I understand plenty. Maybe you're just mad because my audience gets it without needing a lecture." It was a direct hit, questioning her authenticity, and Crockett's face tightened. "Your audience deserves better than your half-baked takes, Jimmy. They're not here for your smug routine." The confrontation escalated as Kimmel pivoted to a hot-button issue: Crockett's recent comments on voting rights. "You've been loud about voter suppression, Jasmine, but don't you think your rhetoric sometimes inflames more than it solves?" His question was loaded, and the audience held its breath. Crockett's eyes flashed with fury. "Inflames? Jimmy, people are being denied their rights, and you're worried about my tone? Maybe if you spent less time pandering and more time listening, you'd get it." The crowd erupted, some shouting support, others stunned by her audacity. Kimmel, visibly stung, shot back. "Listening? I listen to my audience every night. Maybe you should try it instead of preaching." The exchange grew personal, each word a dagger. Crockett accused Kimmel of trivializing serious issues for ratings. "You're not a journalist, Jimmy. You're a performer, and you're performing right now, dodging accountability." Kimmel's face flushed, his voice rising. "Accountability? I'm not the one grandstanding on Capitol Hill for clout. You're not saving the world, Jasmine. You're just loud." The audience was a powder keg, cheers and boos colliding as the two traded blows. Crockett's voice cut through the noise. "Loud? I'm loud because people like you stay silent when it matters. You're complicit, and you know it." Kimmel tried to steer back to humor, tossing out a quip about Crockett's fiery style. "You ever think about cooling it down, Jasmine? You're giving pit bulls a bad name." The joke landed flat, and Crockett's response was venomous. "Keep your dog jokes, Jimmy. I'm not here to be tamed." The crowd roared, the energy chaotic. Kimmel's smile was gone, replaced by a scowl. "You want to keep swinging? Fine, but don't be surprised when you get hit back." The segment's end loomed, but the fight was far from over. Crockett's next words hung in the air like a storm cloud. "Hit me, Jimmy. I'm still standing, and I'm not going anywhere yet." The bell rang, but the crowd's roar drowned it out, hungry for the next round. The Hollywood studio pulsed with raw energy, the audience's roars still echoing as the cameras rolled back into focus. Jimmy Kimmel, his tie slightly askew, stood near the edge of the stage, his usual polish fraying under the weight of the night's unrelenting clash. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, her posture unyielding, stared him down from her seat, her eyes burning with defiance. The bell had only paused their verbal sparring, but the atmosphere was a live wire, ready to spark at the slightest provocation. Last night's Jimmy Kimmel Live had become a spectacle of raw confrontation, and the crowd was ravenous for more. Kimmel, gripping the edge of his desk, tried to reset the tone. His voice clipped. "All right, folks, let's keep this moving. Jasmine Crockett's here, and apparently she's got a lot to say." The audience murmured, sensing the thinly veiled jab. Crockett didn't flinch, her response immediate and razor-sharp. "I've got plenty to say, Jimmy, especially when you keep ducking the real issues." The crowd gasped, a few cheers cutting through the tension. Kimmel's jaw tightened, his patience visibly thinning. "Ducking? I'm right here, Jasmine. Maybe you're just upset because I'm not rolling over for your sermon." The argument reignited with ferocious intensity, diving into Crockett's recent push for economic reforms. Kimmel leaned forward, his tone accusatory. "You talk a big game about fixing the economy, but your plans sound like sound bites, not solutions. Care to prove me wrong?" The challenge was a gauntlet, and Crockett seized it. "Prove you wrong? Jimmy, I'm not here to spoon-feed you policy. You want details? Read the bills I'm fighting for instead of skimming headlines for your monologue." The audience split, some applauding her boldness, others stunned by her directness. Kimmel's eyes flashed with irritation. "Oh, I read plenty. Maybe you should focus on results instead of rants." Crockett's voice rose, her words slicing through the room. "Results? I'm out here pushing for people who can't even get a fair shot while you sit in your ivory tower mocking the fight. You're not clever, Jimmy. You're lazy." The crowd erupted, cheers and boos colliding in a chaotic wave. Kimmel, his face reddening, shot back. "Lazy? I'm not the one," turning every issue into a performance. "You're not on the House floor now, Jasmine. This isn't your stage." The personal dig landed hard, and Crockett's expression hardened. "My stage? I speak for people, not ratings. You wouldn't know the difference." The confrontation grew uglier, each exchange a step closer to the edge. Kimmel accused Crockett of exploiting her platform for fame. "You love the cameras, don't you? Every viral moment's a calculated move." Crockett's response was venomous. "Calculated? I'm fighting for survival out there. You're the one scripting your every word for applause." The audience was a tinderbox, their reactions fueling the fire. Kimmel tried to pivot, tossing out a question about Crockett's stance on bipartisan cooperation, but she cut him off. "Don't change the subject, Jimmy. You want to talk cooperation? Start by admitting you're part of the problem, dismissing real issues for laughs." The tension was palpable, the studio a pressure cooker. Kimmel's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Part of the problem? I'm just a comedian, Jasmine. You're the one with the gavel, so why's everything still broken?" Crockett's eyes blazed. "Broken? Because people like you normalize apathy. You laugh while we bleed." The crowd's reaction was deafening, a mix of support and shock. Kimmel, his composure cracking, leaned closer. "You want to make this personal? Fine. But don't expect me to play nice when you're throwing punches." The segment's end loomed, but the battle showed no signs of cooling. Crockett's final words were a challenge. "I don't need nice, Jimmy. I need real. Step up or step aside." The bell rang, but the crowd's frenzy swallowed it, desperate for the next eruption. The studio lights flared, casting stark shadows across the charged atmosphere of Jimmy Kimmel Live. The audience, a sea of wide eyes and clenched fists, hung on every word, their earlier cheers now a restless hum. Jimmy Kimmel, his shirt sleeves rolled up, paced near his desk, his usual charm, replaced by a raw edge. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, her posture defiant, sat like a coiled spring, her gaze locked on Kimmel with unyielding intensity. Last night's show had spiraled into a verbal cage match, and the bell's ring had only stoked the fire. The crowd knew they were witnessing something unstoppable. Kimmel, his voice taut, tried to seize the reins. "We're back, and apparently, Representative Crockett thinks I'm the root of all evil. Care to elaborate, Jasmine?" The sarcasm was biting, and the audience stirred, sensing blood in the water. Crockett's response was immediate, her tone like a blade. Elaborate? Jimmy, you're not the root, but you're a branch. You profit off division while I'm out here trying to fix it. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others gasping at her audacity. Kimmel's eyes narrowed, his fingers gripping the desk. Fix it? You're throwing grenades and calling it progress. Maybe tone it down before you burn the house down. The clash surged into new territory as Kimmel zeroed in on Crockett's recent comments about media bias. You've slammed the media for skewing narratives, Jasmine. But don't you play that game too, cherry-picking facts for your base? The question was a trap, and Crockett didn't hesitate. Cherry-picking? I call out lies, Jimmy. You're the one spinning stories for laughs while the truth gets buried. The audience split, their reactions a cacophony of support and disbelief. Kimmel's face flushed, his voice rising. Buried? I'm not the one dodging questions with righteous rants. You're not a martyr. You're a politician. Crockett's eyes flashed with fury. Politician? I'm a fighter, Jimmy. You're the one hiding behind a desk, mocking the people who actually show up. The crowd roared, the energy chaotic. Kimmel, his patience shredded, shot back. Show up? You're performing right now, Jasmine. This isn't Congress, it's a talk show, and you're eating up the spotlight. The personal jab stung, and Crockett's voice cut through the noise. Spotlight? I'm here because people need to hear the truth, not your sanitized comedy routine. You're scared of real talk. The confrontation grew vicious, each word a calculated strike. Kimmel accused Crockett of alienating allies with her aggressive style. You push everyone away, Jasmine. How's that working for you in Washington? Crockett's response was venomous. Push away? I'm pulling people up, Jimmy. You wouldn't know, sitting pretty while the rest of us fight. The audience was a powder keg, their cheers and boos colliding. Kimmel tried to pivot, asking about Crockett's plans for bridging political divides, but she shut him down. Don't sidestep, Jimmy. You want to talk divides? Start with how you gloss over injustice for applause. The studio felt like a volcano ready to erupt. Kimmel's voice was sharp, his sarcasm barely masking his anger. Injustice? I'm not your punching bag, Jasmine. You want to preach? Go back to D.C. Crockett leaned forward, her words dripping with disdain. Punching bag? You're not even in the ring, Jimmy. You're just a bystander who thinks he's a referee. The crowd's reaction was deafening, a mix of awe and shock. Kimmel's composure cracked, his voice low but furious. You think you're untouchable? Keep pushing, and you'll see how this game works. The segment's end was near, but the war was escalating. Crockett's final words were a dare. Push me, Jimmy. I'm not backing down. And I'm not leaving until I'm done. The bell rang, but the audience's frenzy drowned it, craving the final explosion. The studio was a cauldron of chaos, the air thick with the aftermath of verbal warfare. The audience, their voices a relentless roar, leaned forward, eyes darting between Jimmy Kimmel and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Kimmel, his face a mask of barely contained fury, stood behind his desk, his knuckles white as he gripped its edge. Crockett, her posture unbowed, radiated defiance, her gaze piercing through the haze of studio lights. Last night's Jimmy Kimmel Live had become a cultural flashpoint, and this final segment was the detonation everyone had been waiting for. The bell's echo faded, but the fight was far from over. Kimmel, his voice a low growl, broke the silence. Welcome back, folks. Apparently Jasmine Crockett thinks she can run my show. Ready to take over, Congresswoman? The jab was laced with venom, and the crowd stirred, a mix of cheers and murmurs. Crockett's lips curled into a steely smile. Run your show. Jimmy, I'm just here to finish what you started. You wanted real, so let's end this right. The audience erupted, their energy a tidal wave. Kimmel's eyes flashed, his tone sharp. End it? You've been swinging all night, Jasmine. Maybe it's time you took a seat. The confrontation roared to its peak as Kimmel dove into Crockett's recent comments on social justice. "You're out there preaching equality, but your approach just divides people. Ever think you're part of the problem?" The question was a Molotov cocktail, and Crockett's response was immediate. "Part of the problem. Jimmy, you're the one profiting off pain, turning suffering into punchlines. I'm fighting for justice, not your approval." The crowd split, their cheers and boos a chaotic symphony. Kimmel's face reddened, his voice rising. "Justice? You're not a hero, Jasmine. You're just loud and it's getting old." Crockett's eyes blazed, her words cutting like a blade. "Old? What's old is your tired act, Jimmy. You mock the fight while people lose everything. You're not neutral. You're complicit." The audience was a powder keg, their reactions deafening. Kimmel, his composure shattered, leaned across the desk. "Complicit? I'm not the one failing in Congress. You talk big, but where's the change?" The personal attack landed hard, and Crockett's voice thundered. "Failing? I'm out here every day, Jimmy, while you hide behind jokes. Step up or shut up." The studio was a battlefield, every word a grenade. Kimmel accused Crockett of grandstanding for clout. "You love the drama, Jasmine. This isn't about truth. It's about your brand." Crockett's response was searing. "My brand? I'm fighting for people's lives, not your ratings. You're the one cashing in on chaos." The crowd's roar was unrelenting, a mix of awe and shock. Kimmel, his patience gone, snapped, "You want to keep attacking? Fine, but this is my show, and I'm done playing nice." Crockett leaned forward, her voice icy. "Your show? I'm here for the people, not your ego. Try me, Jimmy." The breaking point came as Kimmel, his voice shaking with rage, crossed a line. "You're not welcome here if you can't respect the stage, Jasmine. Maybe it's time you left." The crowd gasped. The air sucked out of the room. Crockett stood, her presence commanding. "Respect? You don't get to dismiss me, Jimmy. I'm done with your games." The audience exploded, some chanting her name, others stunned. Kimmel, his face a storm, gestured to security. "Get her out. We're done." Crockett, unyielding, grabbed her mic and faced the crowd. "I'm leaving, but not because you told me to, Jimmy. I'm done with this circus. Keep laughing while the world burns." She dropped the mic, the thud echoing. As she stormed off, the crowd's roar following her into the wings. The studio fell into stunned silence. Kimmel standing alone, his expression a mix of anger and shock. The cameras lingered as he muttered, "Well, that happened." The audience's cheers and boos faded, but Crockett's exit was a triumph, her defiance unbroken. The viral moment was sealed, a testament to her resolve, leaving Kimmel's stage, and the internet, reeling in her wake.